My family kicked me out on my 50th birthday. So I shut off the lights for good, cutting power, gas, internet, and every lifeline they depended on me for leaving them in the dark they created. It was a rainy Tuesday in February. Nothing glamorous, just gray skies and soggy tree branches tapping against the kitchen window. I didn't expect a party. I haven't had one since my 30s, but I thought maybe there'd be a cupcake, maybe a card. Instead, my mother shoved a cardboard box into my arms and told me to get out. The reason I wasn't contributing enough anymore. That stung more than I want to admit. For over a decade, I paid every utility bill in that house, electricity, water, gas, even the damn cable package my sister insisted on keeping for her reality shows. I cooked most nights, fixed the roof twice, and handled the property taxes when my parents nearly lost the place 5 years ago. But none of that mattered. Not anymore. You're a grown man living off your parents. My sister Jennifer sneered from the doorway, like she hadn't been unemployed for half her adult life. Like she didn't have a $10,000 credit card bill I bailed her out of just last year. Mom just stood there nodding her lips, tight, arms crossed like she was bracing for impact. Dad. He didn't say a word, just sat on the couch pretending to read the paper, even though I could see his hands shaking. I should back up. I'm Daniel. Or Dan the man, if you're my late Uncle Joe, the only one who ever really treated me like I mattered. I moved back into my childhood home when I was 37 after a brutal divorce. My ex took the house, the dog, and most of my savings. I limped back home with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. At first, I swore it would only be for a year. But then Dad had his stroke. Jennifer was between jobs again. Mom's arthritis got worse. I started picking up more and more responsibilities. It felt like the right thing to do. That's what good sons are supposed to do. Right? Hold the family together. Over time, I became invisible. Not to the outside world. I still held down a remote job doing customer service for a national chain. But inside these walls, I was just the guy who unclogged the toilet and remembered to refill the propane tank before winter. I don't know when the resentment started, but I felt it like a slow leak in the room, subtle, toxic, hard to pin down. Comments at dinner like, "Must be nice, working in your pajamas." Or, "Some of us have real jobs, you know." Never mind that I made more than either of them. But this was something else. Getting kicked out on my birthday. With no warning. No conversation. Jennifer handed me my coat like she was doing me a favor. "It's time you learned to stand on your own. I'm the only reason this house has power," I said, my voice shaking. "And now it's time we manage on our own," Mom replied, not meeting my eyes. I stood there for a full minute, rain pounding against the windows, the sound of the microwave beeping in the background, leftover meatloaf reheating, like nothing had happened. My name wasn't on the lease, I knew that. Legally, I had no footing. But morally, I walked out. No suitcase. Just that cardboard box with some shirts, my laptop, and a pair of cracked reading glasses. No goodbye. No hug. No guilt. Just the echo of the door closing behind me like punctuation at the end of a bad sentence. I crashed on an old friend's couch for a few nights, Paul from high school. He gave me a beer and a place to sleep. That was all I needed. That and time to think. Because here's the thing they didn't realize. I still had control. Over the gas, the electric, the internet, the insurance. All of it was under my name, paid through my account, auto-deducted like clockwork. They didn't even know the passwords. They wanted to be independent, fine. Let them feel what that really meant. But first, I needed to make sure I wasn't just acting out of anger. I'm not a petty man by nature. I've forgiven a lot in my life. But this was betrayal. You don't throw someone away like trash on their birthday. Not someone who's carried you for a decade. And so that night, sitting in the dark corner of Paul's cluttered guest room with a crusty blanket and the smell of stale beer in the air, I logged into my accounts. and I began to unplug them, one by one, not out of rage, out of justice. They say the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. But when I cut the power, what I felt wasn't indifferent. It was cold, focused, satisfying. The first thing I shut off was the Wi-Fi. Simple enough, logged into the router account, disabled remote access, and canceled the subscription outright. Jennifer had been using my Netflix and Prime accounts too. Those were gone in seconds. Then the electric bill. I scheduled the shutoff for 10 a.m. on Friday, right when I knew Jennifer would be halfway through her second cup of coffee and about to start her daily rerun binge of The Real Housewives of Somewhere I Don't Care About. The gas went next. It was still February, freezing cold, especially in our old drafty house. The water was trickier since it required a call. But I managed. I didn't leave a note, didn't send a warning, just darkness, silence, cold. Friday morning came, and Paul and I were already out running errands when my phone started blowing up. First, it was a text from Mom, "Dan, power's out." "Do you know why?" Then Jennifer, "WTF, internet's gone. Did you forget to pay or something?" An hour later, the tone changed. "Are you doing this on purpose? We can't cook. We can't shower. This is sick, Dan. You need help." That one made me laugh. I needed help. I didn't reply. Just watched as the storm built up behind my screen, message after message, piling up like thunderclouds. My sister called me 6 times that day. I didn't answer once. The next day, Mom tried calling Paul. I guess she figured I'd be crashing with him. I warned him in advance, and he let it ring. He was more loyal to me in 3 days than my own family had been in 3 decades. But that didn't stop them. By Sunday, things escalated. Jennifer posted a long, passive-aggressive status on Facebook. It was a masterpiece of manipulation, written like some twisted open letter. It's so hard watching a loved one spiral. Mental illness is real, and sometimes people you trust hurt you the most. Prayers needed. The comments were full of "so sorry, stay strong, and you're so brave." Brave. For what? Kicking me out of the house. I paid to keep standing. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I bookmarked it instead. By Monday, the sheriff's department showed up at Paul's house. I wasn't there when it happened, but Paul texted me a photo of the card they left. Jennifer had reported me for harassment, said I was retaliating after being removed for aggressive behavior. She even claimed I had made threats, which was a flat-out lie. I had never even raised my voice. I started feeling that familiar pit in my stomach, the one you get when you know the truth, but everyone around you believes a lie. It was the same feeling I had when my ex told people I was abusive just to keep the house in the divorce. That helpless fury. But not this time. I wasn't going to roll over again. I reached out to a lawyer. Not for a lawsuit, I wasn't interested in court just yet, but for protection. I wanted records, documentation, something to show that I was being targeted. My lawyer, Janet, was blunt. "You need to stop everything that ties you to them. Cut the financial umbilical cord and keep receipts of everything." I did just that. I had copies of every utility bill, every bank statement, every account in my name. I even pulled old emails where Mom had asked me to just handle it because she didn't understand online banking. But even as I built my wall of proof, they kept pushing. Jennifer showed up at Paul's place one night, banging on the door, screaming my name like a woman possessed. Paul told her to leave, or he'd call the cops. She left, but not before spitting on the porch and yelling, "You're a coward, Dan. You abandoned us." That word stuck to me like rot. Abandoned. They abandoned me the moment I stopped being useful. The only one who didn't reach out was Dad. Not once. He didn't call, didn't text. I wondered if he even knew what was happening. Maybe he was just quietly letting the women run the show like always. But a week later, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was him. "Dan, I don't know what's going on. The house is cold. Jennifer won't tell me anything. Please call me." His voice was weak, tired, but not angry. Not yet. I didn't return the call. I couldn't afford to be soft. Because by then, I knew this wasn't just about getting kicked out. It was about years of being used. Years of being the fallback plan. The free labor, the invisible wallet, they could tap into anytime they wanted. And when I finally needed space, when I dared to need something back, they threw me away like garbage. Well, now they were going to learn what independence really meant. But before I burned the bridge completely, I needed to be sure I wasn't alone. So I reached out to someone I hadn't talked to in years, my cousin Lena. She'd grown up in the same chaos as me. Her mother and mine were sisters cut from the same narcissistic cloth. But Lena escaped, moved to Oregon, got therapy, and built a life. We hadn't spoken in nearly a decade, but I remembered something she once said to me at a funeral. The day I stopped sacrificing myself for people who only loved what I could do for them was the day I started living. So I called her, and when she picked up, her first words weren't hello. They were, "Dan, is it finally happening?" And that's when I knew. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't alone, and I wasn't done yet. I met Lena at a quiet diner just off the freeway, halfway between her place and Paul's. She looked older than I remembered, more tired around the eyes, but still sharp, still grounded. The kind of person who doesn't waste words anymore. We ordered coffee, and before the waitress even walked away, she leaned in and said, "Oh, they finally turned on you." I blinked. "You knew it would happen," she snorted. "Dan, they did it to me when I was 20. Told me I was selfish for going to college out of state. Said I abandoned the family. My mom cut me out of the will. I haven't seen any of them since." I sat there for a second, letting it sink in. "You never went back. Not once. And it's the only reason I'm still sane." I told her everything. From the moment they handed me the box to the last voicemail from Dad. I even showed her screenshots of Jennifer's Facebook post. She barely reacted. "That's her game," she said. "Victimhood is her currency. She'll lie, manipulate, twist the truth to stay in control. But you already know that." Lena stirred her coffee, then lowered her voice. "You want to hear something worse? Hit me. I heard from my mom's old friend Carol a few years back. She told me your mom was bragging at a party, said you were basically her golden goose. That she didn't need to worry about retirement because Danny's got it covered." My stomach twisted. It was one thing to feel used, another to hear it confirmed, bragged about. "I paid the house off," I whispered. "Every damn month. I even paid for Jennifer's Invisalign." "Of course you did," Lena said, "because you were trained to think love means sacrifice." That was the moment it all snapped into focus. Not just the past few months. Everything. The way Mom used guilt as currency. The way Jennifer always made herself the victim, no matter what she did. The way Dad disappeared into the background like wallpaper, never standing up for me, never protecting me. I wasn't the black sheep. I was the scapegoat. And now I was out of the pen. Lena didn't just listen. She offered help. Real help. "I know a lawyer in Portland," she said. "He specializes in family fraud. If they've been using your name or credit, he'll find it." I gave her everything. Passwords, documents, bills I hadn't thought to check. Just in case. A week later, she called me with news that shattered me. "They opened a credit card in your name last year. $40,000 limit. Maxed out." I nearly dropped the phone. "How?" "You probably had your credit frozen after the divorce. But remember when Mom asked for your SSN to refinance the car insurance? I bet they used it. It matches the application date." The rage I felt in that moment was volcanic. Years of sacrifice, of silence, of bending over backwards just to keep them afloat, and they committed identity fraud. But the worst part. The bank statements showed what they spent it on. Trips, designer clothes, a goddamn hot tub. They were living it up, while telling the world I was a mentally unstable leech. No more. I contacted Janet, my lawyer, and we began building a case. Not just for fraud, but for defamation. I had the screenshots, the emails, the voicemails. And now, thanks to Lena, I had financial proof. Meanwhile, I requested a credit report and froze everything. Changed my bank passwords, flagged my SSN. It was tedious and humiliating, but necessary, like disinfecting a wound. Then something unexpected happened. Dad called again. I didn't answer, but this time he left a longer message. Danny, I know you're angry. I understand. But your sister's out of control. She's talking about selling the house. Says Mom wants to move in with her. I don't want that. I can't live like that. Please, call me back. That's when it clicked. He didn't know. He really didn't know. Jennifer and Mom had been controlling everything, money bills, even access to accounts. I remembered how they always explained things to him, talked over him. He stopped asking questions years ago. He'd become a shadow in his own life. I didn't call him back. Not yet. Instead, I went deeper. I filed a formal police report for identity theft. Janet sent a cease and desist letter to Jennifer regarding defamation and credit fraud. We demanded immediate payment or legal action would follow. She tried to call 15 times in a single day. Then she texted. What the hell? Are you seriously suing your own family? You're pathetic. You'll die alone. I didn't respond, but I kept everything. By the time the court date was set for the fraud hearing, the energy had shifted. I wasn't scared anymore. I was sharpening my blade. Jennifer showed up to the preliminary hearing in heels and sunglasses, like she was walking into the view. Mom sat beside her, clutching her pearls like a church widow. They tried to spin a sob story, claimed they thought I had given permission for the credit card, that I'd benefited from the purchases because I lived in the house. But they weren't prepared for what came next. My lawyer handed over copies of every bill I paid since 2013. Screenshots of texts where Mom asked me to handle the finances, copies of emails with SSN requests. Even the security footage Lena managed to pull from a vacation rental Jennifer paid for using my card. Their faces. My God, it was like watching mannequins melt. When the judge ruled that the case could proceed to trial and that Jennifer would likely face felony charges, I felt something in me unclench. Not joy, not vengeance, clarity. The fog of guilt, obligation, and pain finally lifted. But I wasn't done yet, because this wasn't just about me anymore. I had to make sure they never did this to anyone else again. And I knew exactly how to end it. The morning of the full trial, I stood in the courthouse bathroom staring at my reflection like I didn't recognize the man anymore. I looked older, tired, but sharper somehow. Like life had carved the indecision right out of my face. I wore the same charcoal suit I'd worn to my divorce hearing 14 years ago. Back then, I looked defeated in it. Today, it fit like armor. Jennifer came in late to the courtroom, of course, like her entrance mattered more than the charges. Mom was right behind her, wearing black again, like she was attending my funeral. Dad wasn't there, but Lena was. She sat beside me, firm and steady, giving me a look that said, "Finish it." The trial lasted 2 days. Jennifer tried every angle, claimed confusion, emotional stress, even tried to gaslight the judge by saying I had offered to co-sign the card. But every lie she told I knocked down with paper trails, bank statements, recorded calls, a signed insurance form with my forged signature. Lena's contact found a handwriting expert who testified that it wasn't mine. Even better, we subpoenaed the vacation property owner where Jennifer had used my card. He showed up with a copy of her rental agreement signed in her legal name, right next to the last 4 digits of my credit card. The prosecution called it textbook identity theft with malicious intent. The jury didn't take long. Jennifer was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and was sentenced to community service restitution and a probationary period with mandatory financial counseling. Her precious public image ruined. People from church neighbors and even her old high school friends saw her name in the local papers. Mom somehow came off worse in the court of public opinion. She wasn't charged, she was just the enabler. But that didn't stop people from whispering about her at the grocery store or calling her a liar behind her back. She couldn't show her face in town without side eyes and muttered judgments. Dad eventually called me again. This time, I picked up. His voice was small. "I didn't know, Dan. I swear to you, I didn't know." "I believe you," I said. And I did. But I wasn't offering a way back. I was offering closure. "I'm sorry," he said. "I let it happen." I didn't reply. I just hung up. Because sorry doesn't always mean you're welcome again. Meanwhile, Mom and Jennifer's world began to cave in. Without me funding the house, they couldn't keep up with the mortgage. The electricity I cut, still unpaid. The hot tub Jennifer financed repoed. The car she bought with the card in my name, seized. Eventually, I heard from Lana that the house went into pre-foreclosure. The irony. The same week it was listed as abandoned, I made my final payment on Paul's guest house. Yeah. Paul. He offered to sell it to me cheap. Said it had good vibes now that I'd been there. I renovated the space, painted the walls, tore up the old shag carpet, replaced it with reclaimed wood floors. Planted a garden out back. Tomatoes mostly. I like the idea of things growing again. One morning I was pruning the vines when a car pulled up I didn't recognize. It was a young woman, barely 20, stepping out with a duffel bag and puffy eyes. "My name's Ellie," she said. "I'm Jennifer's daughter." I froze. I heard what happened. "I don't want to be like them," she said quietly. "Can I stay?" I stood there in silence, stunned. Jennifer's daughter. My niece. We hadn't spoken since she was 10. I remembered giving her a bike one Christmas. The only gift she got that year, worth more than $20. She rode it in the snow. Her cheeks were red, and her laugh echoed across the driveway. I remember Mom scolding me later for showing off. I let Ellie in. We made tea, talked for hours. She told me everything, how Jennifer would scream about the case, how she blamed me for ruining their lives. But Ellie had seen the receipts, the articles, the truth. "She never let me contact you," she said. "Told me you were dangerous. But I always remembered you being kind." I didn't cry. Not until she said that. For a second, the bitterness cracked and something warm pushed through. She stayed in the guest room for a month while she figured things out. I helped her enroll in online courses, helped her apply for work, helped her learn how to budget. I didn't ask for anything in return. One night, as we were closing up the kitchen, she said, "You don't have to fix everything for everyone anymore, you know?" I smiled. Old habits die hard. But inside, I knew she was right. I wasn't their handyman anymore. I wasn't their safety net, their scapegoat, their punching bag. I was something else now. Free. Jennifer eventually tried to reach out again. A long email full of faux apologies and emotional manipulation. I didn't read past the first line. I blocked her. Mom wrote a letter. Handwritten. Thick with perfume I used to associate with childhood. It sat in my mailbox for a week before I tossed it unopened into the trash. Some things don't deserve closure. Some people don't deserve a seat at your table once you've rebuilt it. And I had just set mine with new plates. Clean ones. A year later, I barely recognize the man I used to be. There are mornings I wake up and forget the sound of their voices. Not because I'm trying to erase them, just because peace is louder than pain once you've lived in it long enough. The garden is thriving. Ellie and I added raised beds for herbs, even a tiny greenhouse out back. She moved into her own place last month, just a few blocks away. We still talk every week. She calls me Uncle D, and every time I hear it, it chips away at that old belief I had for so long, that I wasn't worth keeping. I now know that belief was planted in me by people who couldn't love without conditions, who saw loyalty as a tool, not a gift, who taught me that my value was measured in what I could give, not who I was. They were wrong. Jennifer, as far as I know, still lives with Mom in a cramped apartment across town. After the foreclosure, they never got the house back. It was auctioned off for half its value. A young couple lives there now, fixed the siding, repainted the porch. Sometimes I drive by and barely recognize it. It's strange seeing a place where you once cried, screamed, sacrificed look so serene in someone else's hands. I've stopped checking their social media, stopped reading the hate posts, the passive-aggressive quotes, the curated victimhood. It doesn't sting anymore. It just bores me. Dad moved in with his brother in Arizona. He wrote me a letter this time, a real one. Said he regrets not speaking up, that he was a coward, that he knew what was happening but didn't want to rock the boat. Said he's trying to be better now, even if it's too late for me to care. I didn't reply. But I kept the letter, not out of sentimentality, out of documentation. The last time I saw Jennifer was at a grocery store by accident. I turned the corner near the dairy aisle, and there she was, sunglasses on, cart half full, holding a bottle of almond milk like it weighed more than her guilt. She saw me, froze. I looked her dead in the eye and walked past like she was a stranger. Because she is. Mom called once after that, left a voicemail that said, "You've made your point." I didn't respond. Because it was never about making a point. It was about ending the cycle. For decades, I lived like a ghost in my own story, haunting a house where love had long since rotted. They didn't just throw me out on my birthday. They exiled me for no longer being convenient. So I stopped being convenient, and I became free. These days, I volunteer at a local community center, helping adults with job skills and financial literacy. It's fulfilling in a way I can't quite explain. Maybe because I know what it's like to be in the dark, begging for light, from people who hoard it like power. One afternoon after a budgeting class, a young man came up to me, nervous, fidgeting. "Sir, how do you know when to stop helping your family?" I looked at him, really looked, and I said, "When helping them means harming yourself." He nodded slowly, like he already knew the answer, but needed to hear someone else say it out loud. I think we all do at some point. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't the downfall of your enemies, it's your own rise. Without them, I never went back. When Ellie left that house at 18, I welcomed her like I was saving my younger self. As for my parents, they're still there, trapped in the darkness they created. But I'm not. I am finally, irrevocably, beautifully gone.